Welcome to Gunthots.
Been a minute. We're back. Sons of Liberty Gunworks EX02. There's a lot of hype behind Sons of Liberty Gunworks. They seem to have a really loyal fan base, and while we can see why that is the case, it's also not a perfect upper. Out of the box, you can really see the attention to detail that Sons of Liberty seem to pride themselves on. The machining on everything is top notch. The rail has no chatter marks. The finish is nice and even and is held up really well. Personally, I am not super stoked on how this rail looks, but it actually feels quite nice in the hand. It's thin and it seems to dissipate heat pretty well. They drilled all these holes in it, but none of them are a QD sling point, which is a little weird though.
One of the first issues that we had, or we noticed with this upper, was the rail actually started to move on us.
So after about the first 500 rounds, we noticed that the rail had slid forward away from the receiver, and now there's a gap that's about 1 millimeter or 2, and it seems to have stopped moving. So we haven't taken it off, but it seems that that might indicate that the way that it locks into the barrel nut, there's a little bit of slop there that let it move forward under recoil, but it doesn't seem like it's going to fall off. So
I thought it was going to fall off for a bit.
yeah, I don't think it's going to fall off anymore.
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
This back now. Oh, the gap's gone.
Oh, perfect.
Is it really?
No. The laser held 0 the entire time, which is fine with me, but there's definitely slop or something in the handguard.
As far as the accuracy that we got from it, it was about a 2-minute gun, 1 minute with match grade, which is definitely acceptable by our standards.
This upper was incredibly reliable out of the box. It's worked perfectly so far. No wear-in issues or anything like that.
Yeah, it's been perfectly reliable with all ammos and all buffer weight and spring combos.
We'll get into that later. As far as the cost goes, it was just over $700 with the bolt carrier group, which we feel is a pretty fair and competitive price, especially compared to like a BCM upper, and you know how we feel about that.
This upper beats BCM on price, and it beats BCM on performance. So in that regard, we're happy with it. So that's all well and good, but what is it like to shoot this upper? The first thing you kind of notice when you're shooting this is that it's a little bit punchier than you would hope it is. I would say that in terms of how punchy the guns are that we've reviewed, it would go BCM, Roscoe, Sons, and then Geisley.
So we have a Turbo K, and when this is on the upper, it can get a little gassy. There's definitely a lot coming out the front and the ejection port.
My eyes. It's gas in the face.
It definitely does feel softer than the BCM, and you're still able to track the dot through the recoil cycle.
In terms of comparing how this gun shoots to other guns like the BCM or the Roscoe, tracking the red dot through the recoil cycle on those guns is actually pretty hard, and it doesn't have a consistent recoil pattern. This, despite being a little bit punchy, has a very consistent movement of the red dot, which makes it a lot easier to shoot.
It also has been causing a lot of wear on the cam pin. You can feel it physically, like with your fingernail, and it's got
You can
a case through it. That's not a lot.
Not only can you feel that there's a shelf that's worn into the cam pin already, it is noticeable enough that you can see it just by looking at the cam pin. You can see that there is a shelf that's worn into it. And that's quite fast for that to have happened.
So despite being probably one of the best uppers you can get in this price range, I don't think the Sun's upper lives up to its hype. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. We hate big gas ports, and so does Sons of Liberty Gunworks. But for some reason, they put a big gas port on this gun.
I would say it's like a medium, but it's like a Costco medium.
Yeah, they put a Costco medium gas port on this upper. In terms of the information that we have, the Sons of Liberty Gunworks 12.5 gas port is 0.070 inches. The Geisley 11.5 gas port is 0.068 inches. So they put a larger gas port on a 12.5 than Geisley put on an 11.5. With all the things that the owner of Sons of Liberty has said online about gas ports and proper gassing and everything, that really doesn't seem in line with how he would build an upper.
It's a little bit surprising to us that they didn't decide to go with something a little bit smaller, because based on our shooting impressions, they definitely could have gotten away with a little bit smaller gas port, and the gun would have been more pleasant to shoot and would have run nicer suppressed.
I think we all definitely thought that it would be a really close matchup between the Geisley gassing and this gassing, and it's
really
not even close at all.
I mean, that's not to say that we hate Suns or we hate this upper. For that $707 price point, you're definitely getting pretty good bang for your buck.
Stop going so easy on them.
If they sized that gas port down a little bit, I think it would be great, but as it is, I would say it's a good upper, but it's not a great upper.
The reason I purchased this upper was because of the things that Mike, the owner of Sons of Liberty Gunworks, had said about how he values the size of the gas port and how he thinks that overgassing a gun is a bad thing. He also talked about how XM193 is a standard on which he basically gasses the gun. My impression was that when I got this upper, it was going to run XM193 on an H2 unsuppressed, and that's where I was going to keep it. We did the same test with this upper that we did with the BCM. We took it up and we ran it on an H1, then an H3 with a 15% enhanced power spring, Geisley Super 42. It ejected XM193 and XM855 basically straightforward with unsuppressed on an H1. The H3 with the Super 42, it ejected between 2 and 3 o'clock-ish with XM193 and XM855. And it shot surprisingly well with steel case on an H3 with the Geisley Super 42. So if you're buying a Suns upper, you might want to pick up a couple cases of steel case too. My final thoughts, personally, I'm kind of disappointed this upper isn't as flat shooting and as nice to shoot as I was led to believe by people online. That being said, I'm probably going to hang on to it. It seems like a quality upper. It was a decent price, and they're going to replace my barrel when I absolutely blow through the 10K of steel case I have sitting waiting for it.
It's unremarkable. My final thoughts on this are that it's a good buy, but don't expect miracles. It's not going to be a sub-minute gun. It's not going to be the flattest gun, but it seems to do the job that it does.
It's not perfect. For $707, you're getting a pretty good bargain. I mean, it's not beating itself to death in the same way the BCM was, even if it does have a little bit of accelerated wear. So my final thoughts on this upper from Suns. For $707 with a bolt carrier group, you're getting a pretty good upper, and Sons will replace your barrel when it's burnt out. So just buy that steel case and go to town with this thing, I guess.
Gassing and the gap.
The gap's gone.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Bro.
It does gun, but it doesn't do gun in any exceptional capacity. I mean, fuck it, if you're gonna buy a BCM, buy a Sons instead, but I mean, it's not that much better.
It's basically just like the girl next door.
Except she's not that hot and she never you. And then when she does you, her is all blown out.
Before you go down in the comments and start typing, why don't you just put adjustable gas block on it?
They're for idiots. You're an idiot. If you ever shot a gun, you know that's not going to work.
He knows because he had one.
Don't tell them that.
They're
They're gonna come down so hard on us.
They're gonna kill us.
I'm sweating.